Hi everyone, this is Mr. Ronald, and for this topic, we're going to discuss about direct proportion in the chapter direct and inverse proportion. Okay, so for us to fully understand what direct proportion is, we're going to have a real life situation example. So it says here that if one soap costs $2, then we can actually say that the price for two soaps will give us four, and then the price for the three soaps will give us $6, and then the price for the four soaps will give us $8 consecutively. All right. Now, if you're going to notice in this particular topic, we can understand that as the number of pieces of soap increase, then the total amount of the price increases as well. And if we pay more attention to the particular quantities, let's say, for example, I'm going to pick two quantities here and compare it to these two quantities, meaning to say I'm going to give 1/2 to 2/24. We can notice that these two values are in equal ratios. Okay, sorry, I put 12. I should be putting here 24. Okay. 1/12 is the same with 2/24. And as you notice, guys, if I simplify this is this 2/24, then automatically we will understand that they will give us the same ratio. So it will still go back to 1/12 is to 1/12. So no matter where you go there, so let's say, for example, if I move to this particular ratio, so let's say I focus with 12 and 24 and 24/48. So we know that the ratio of 12/24 will give me the same for 24 and 48. So if I simplify that, this would automatically give us the same amount. So we can say that they will be equal ratio with each other. So now, in general, we can conclude that the ratio A over B will give the same ratio to the quantity number to C over D. Or we can say that if we cross multiply these quantities, okay, B and C, automatically this will give us A times D is equivalent to B times C. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you an example first here on how to solve this problem. And as right after that, right after I finish my discussion, you can pause the video and try to do this one and see whether your answer will be the same as mine. Okay? All right. Let's go with this one. So it says here that if 3 eggs cost $10, find the cost of 9 eggs. So some of you are confused which one is going to be the A, which one is going to be the B, which one is going to be the C or the D. So the technique here is for you to first write down the quantity, the units of measurement. So in this case, I'm going to write kilograms and dollars. And what you're going to notice is that the arrangements of these particular values are right there in the statement itself. So let's say, for example, 3 kilograms would cost $10. And then it says here, find the cost of 9 kilograms of egg. So if you're looking for the cost of 9 kilograms of eggs, then this would mean that the price is unknown. Okay, so just like what we said here, this automatically will tell us that if we arrive with this kind of table, we can automatically say that we can cross multiply these quantities for us to be able to solve the value of x. So let's say, for example, I multiply x by 3. So this is going to give me 3x and then equate it to 9 times 10. which is equivalent to 90. And then as soon as you get an equation in terms of x, what you need to do is to solve for the value of the x. So from here, x is equal to 90 over 3, which eventually will give you an answer of 30. So this would mean that the cost of 9 kilograms of egg will give you $30. Now I need you to pause this video and see whether you could answer this question by yourself. All right. So I assume that you paused the video and tried your best to answer this one. So let's see if you are going to get the same result. So like what I said, it's better for you to write this down in terms of a table. So you don't really need to make a table itself. So all you need to do is to plug in these particular values that corresponds to the statements. So the question is asking how much distance will it cover in 24 liters of petrol? So this one gives us like this, 24 liters, and it's asking for the kilometers. So meaning to say, this is the one that has the value of x. So following the procedure wherein you cross multiply, okay, so notice that this particular portion will give us 8x, and it will be equivalent to 120 times 24. Now in here, you will see that I did not calculate it right away because later on I will still have another process for me to solve it. So in this case, what I need to do is to divide these whole factors or product. So this is going to be 120 times 24 divided by 8. And from here, I can automatically use the cancellation method. So I know that these two numbers, 24 and 8, can be canceled, and both can be divided by 8. So this is going to be 1, and this is going to be 3. And if I multiply this value 120 to 3, automatically I will arrive with an answer of 360. Okay, so now some of you might be asking, like, Mr. Ronald, how would we know if our answer is correct? So let's go back to this particular part. It will be possible for you to get your to know if your answer is correct if you convert these two quantities into fractions or ratio and see whether they will be equivalent. So let's say, for example, if I want to check if my answer is correct, all I need to do is to put this 120 over x, which is the answer, 360. Will that be equivalent to 8 over 24? So we know that if we simplify 8 over 24, both numbers can be divided by by 8. So this is going to give us 1/3. And if we use cancellation method here and simplify 12 and 36, this is going to be divided by 12. So this is 1 over 3 and 1 over 3. And you will notice that it arrived with the same ratio or fraction, meaning to say that your answer for this particular value is said to be correct. Okay, I hope you understand that one. So now we're going to move on to the next portion. So in this portion, what you're going to have is you're going to be given a situation where you're going to write an algebraic equation, and afterwards we're going to put it into graph. Okay, so now the first thing that you need to do here is to know the basic algebraic equation to follow in terms of the direct proportion. So in this case, the basic equation is y is equivalent to kx. Now, if we are given a problem, the best way for us to understand is to know what this part of the equation tells us in terms of the mathematical statement. So in here, you will see that I boxed this equivalent to kx, which automatically means in the word problem is directly proportion to. So when we read this, automatically it will give us the same statement to what we're going to have in the word problem. So we can say y is directly proportional to x. So as you can see, y is directly proportional to x. And when you try to look at it, automatically you will be able to see that one. So in here, we're just going to have 3 steps. The first step that you're going to have is to make the equation itself. So we say that y is directly proportional to x. So y is equivalent to kx, wherein the k is a constant value. Okay. The next thing that you're going to look for is to find the value of k. So in here, in the equation, y is equivalent to kx, using your skills in algebra, you will understand that k is equivalent to y over x. Now, you can only get the value of k if you have these values for the y and x. Now, if you notice in the statement, it automatically tells us that the y is equivalent to 12 and the x is equivalent to 4. So if we calculate those, this will give us an idea that the k will now be equivalent to 3. All right, so that is the second step. The third step is to plug in this k going back to the same equation that we had. I repeat, you're going to plug this k to the equation that we had at the beginning. So you will not change anything here but the k itself. So this y will remain as y, and then the equal sign. And then I will change the value of my k to 3. And therefore, automatically, I will just copy the x in there. So now in here, you will now be able to get the answer for the first question, which is to find the equation connecting x and y. So the equation that connects x and y is going to be the equation that you acquired. So this one now is going to be y is equivalent to 3x. And that is how we're going to solve the first question. Now, the second question here tells us that you're going to ask to find the value of y if your x is equivalent to 8. So what does that mean? So that automatically means that what you need to do is to use the equation that you acquire in the beginning. So your equation is y is equivalent to 3x. And if your y is equivalent to 3x and it was mentioned that your x should be equal to 8, so that means all you need to do is to plug in that particular value 8. So that means if you calculate it, this is going to be y is equivalent to 3 times 8, which gives you 24 for the value of y. And that is how we are going to answer the second question. The third question in letter C tells us that we are going to look for the value of x if the y is equivalent to 21. So again, the main rule here is to understand that you are going to use the equation y is equivalent to 3x. But this time, what you need to do is to replace the y, because in letter C, the y is equivalent to 21. So this would mean that this y will turn into 21, and then the rest will just become the same. So in here, you will have 21 is equivalent to 3x, or if you want to rewrite it, you can have it as 3x is equivalent to 21, and your x will now be equivalent to 7. Okay, So now I want you guys to pause this video and see and try to answer these questions and check if you were able to answer it by yourself. Okay, so now I assume that you guys pause the video and try this by yourself. So again, all we need to do is to have these 3 steps. Okay, let's go to the first step. Step number 1 is to make an equation, the basic equation. Y is directly proportional to x. So y is equivalent to kx. Number 2 is to solve for the value of k. So we know that k is equivalent to y over x. And we know that in the given, the y is equivalent to 10 and the x is equivalent to 2. So if you understand that, this will give us the value of k as equivalent to 5. Okay. So question number 3, step number 3 is for you to plug in that k to the given equation in the beginning. So this is now going to be y is equivalent to 5x. All right. Now, once you get that equation, the 3 steps, automatically you go to the question itself. So let's say, for example, in letter A, you're looking for equation connecting x and y, and it's already here. So all we need to do is to just write it, y is equivalent to k 5x. All right. For letter B, so the same procedure to what we did here, we're going to be using this equation for us to get the value of y. And notice that I will just change the value of the x automatically into 10. And in this way, I will get the answer for the y as equivalent to 50. Okay. For letter C, it's just the same thing. So I will use this equation here on top for you to understand that this is the y is going to be 80, and the right side of the equation will just remain the same. So here we will know now that x is equivalent to 80 over 5, and 80 divided by 5 will result to 16. 16. Okay. All right, so now in this case, we got this problem number 2. So if you guys are familiar with this particular procedure, you can just follow this down. And in here, I can give you another way to process this one. So we know that these units x and y are the same for everything, right? So let's say, for example, I got 2 here, and my y is equivalent to 5. So that means you are going to find the value of the y when the x is equivalent to 5. So that means the y will be the missing value. So in this case, for you to be able to get the answer, all you need to do is to just cross multiply, the same procedure to what we had last time. So this is going to give us 2y is equivalent to 25. And y now is equivalent to 25 over 2, which eventually will give us 12.5. So this is a more efficient calculation should you not look for the equation itself. However, if you guys are comfortable with doing this one, then that is no problem at all. Okay, so you can do it just like that. However, if you want to be more efficient and not to waste the time, then you can proceed with this one. So x and y, the first x and y are here, the second x and y are going to be at the bottom, and one of them will be a missing value. All right, now completing the table. So completing the table is a very easy particular value. You can answer this by doing the 2 ways, the x and y, the cross multiplication, and solving for the value, solving for the equation itself. So now in here, I'm going to give you two ways. So you can try to pause this one first and try to solve it by yourself, or you can just automatically pay attention to the discussion. Okay? So now I assume that you guys are pause this video, and I will try to give two different ways to answer these following problems. Now, I'm not going to solve everything in here, but I will just give you the ways on how to answer these questions. Okay? So let's say, for example, if I'm going to use my way as y is equivalent to kx because x is directly proportional to y, then all I need to do is to understand that I am going to look for the value of k, which is equivalent to y over x. Now, in this case, what I need to do is to look for these column that has both the values for x and y. And what you're going to notice here is that this is the only portion that has it. So this is going to be 24 over 4, which gives us an idea that the value of the k is equivalent to 6. So now in the equation, you will now have y is equivalent to 6x. All right. So now let's say, for example, you're going to solve for the first column, wherein the x is equivalent to 3. So if the x is equivalent to 3, then that would mean that you're just going to replace it to the equation. So this is going to give us y is equivalent to 18. So this is going to be 18. Or let's say, for example, we want to get the value of x here. So you guys can just do this by yourself. So this is going to be y is equivalent to 36. So that means this is going to give us 36 is equivalent to 6x. And as you notice, solving just for the value of x, meaning to say you are just going to divide both sides by 6, which eventually will give us x is equivalent to 6. All right. So those are the two ways to answer that. Now, if you are going to have to look for a more efficient method to solve for this particular answer, okay, there is another way as well. So last time I told you about the quantities of x and y, wherein the first values of x and y will be on the top, and the second values of x and y will be at the bottom, and one of them will have a missing quantity. So let's say, for example, in here, I'm going to write the first two given as the first values, 9 and 36. Okay. So in this case, let's say, for example, I'm going to solve for the y here, and I know that the x here is equivalent to 5. So that means the one that is missing in this calculation is equivalent to y. So I will do the same procedure, cross multiplication. So this is going to give me 9y is equivalent to 36 times 5. And then y now is equivalent to 36 times 5 divided by 9. And in this case, I know that I can cancel 9 and 36, which gives me 1 and 4 here. So automatically, this is going to give us y is equivalent to 20. All right. So imagine how many seconds are you going to save if you calculated this particular problem in this manner versus the one that we have in here. Okay. So I'll just put this one here as 20. Now, so let's try to look at this particular portion. So the procedure is just the same. I'm going to have x and y for the quantity, and I will be using x and y with 9 and 36 as well. And this time, since the x is the one that is missing, then I will highlight it as the missing value together with this particular value of y as 64. And then I will just do the same procedure. Cross multiply 36x is equivalent to 9 times 64. And then the value of x now will be equivalent to 9 times 64 divided by 36. Now notice that these values can be canceled. So let's say I can cancel 9 and 36. This gives me 1 and this gives me 4. And I can also cancel out 64 and 4. All right, so this is going to give me now an answer of, if I'm not mistaken, is 16. Okay, 24 is 6. 4 times 6. All right, so it's going to be 16. Okay, I hope you guys learned from this one. So I'll just put it here. So you, why 6? I should be 16, sorry. Should be 16. All right, let's now move on to the next particular problem. Wait, hold on. I think I accidentally make it like that. All right. Sorry about that. First time it should be here. Okay, sorry about this. First timer. All right, solving direct proportions in real life situation. Okay, so there are many ways for you to solve the direct proportion in real life situation, and one of which is by the use of the general algebraic equation to follow. So let's say, for example, this one here, we have y is equal to 9, y is equivalent to kx. However, in the word problem, not all the time you will experience that the variables will automatically be equal to y and yes, okay, hold on, yeah, and sorry about that, will be equivalent to y and x. So in these cases, you are going to see that some variables will give us a different formation. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so in this case, how do we spot on in the particular word problem which statement would give us this particular proportion? So again, you are going to spot on this particular part that tells us is directly proportional to. So meaning to say, if this is directly proportional to, what you need to do now in the word problem is to spot on that particular statement. And in this statement, we will see this particular one. Now notice that when we highlight this is proportional to, on the left side, it will give you the total cost, which represents the y, and the number of guests on the right side, which represents the value of x. So if you are going to write it down, this will give us an equation such that t, which is the total cost, is directly proportional to the number of guests g. So this is what you guys are going to have if you are going to answer this particular word problem that has a different variable. Okay, so now the next thing is the same procedure. We are going to look for the value of k. Okay, if the value of k is now equivalent to y over x, then all we need to do is to say that k is equivalent to t over g. And we know that the values of the T over G here, it says when there are 30 guests. So these 30 guests here represents the value of the G. And then the total cost here represents the value of the T. So this one now will give us an idea that this is going to be 210 over 30, which later on you guys can cancel out and simplify for you to get the value of the K. So this would mean that your K now will automatically be equal to 7. All right. So if your K is equivalent to 7, then this would mean that you are going to put this in the equation itself. So this is going to be 7. T is equivalent to 7G. All right. If T is equivalent to 7G, then that would mean that all we need to do is to understand that we have already answered letter A. T is equivalent to 7G. Simple as that. Now, in letter B, it says here that calculate the total cost when there are 70 guests. So in this case, guys, you have to understand that these particular 70 guests represents a certain variable G. And this total cost that you are looking for represents a certain variable T. Knowing that, you will now understand that you can replace the G with the value of 70. So this is how it goes. If I use the equation T is equivalent to 7 times G, and I know that the G is equivalent to 70, then this is going to be 7 times 70, which eventually will give you 490. Okay. So in this case, we will now know that the total cost for that will become $490. Okay, so draw the graph of T against G. All right. So in this case, what you guys need to do is to understand that when you draw a graph, you should be using a graphing paper. However, I would just explain it here without a graphing paper. So what you need to do here is to use the equation itself, T is equivalent to 7 times G, for you to be able to graph that particular equation. So how are we going to get this one? So remember that this TG represents Y and X, okay, in reality. So if you are going to have the graph, this X-axis will represent the G, and this Y-axis will represent the T. And the points for the coordinates, as we know, is going to be X, Y. This time, we are going to use G, T. All right. So just the same procedure on how to get the answer. All we need to do is to look for the smallest value of G for us to get a certain value of the T. So let's say, for example, if my G is equivalent to 0, so what I need to do is to just put it into the equation. T is equivalent to 7 times G, which is 7 times 0. So this would mean that your T is equivalent to 0. And the point that you're going to have following this one, G, T, this is going to give us a value of 0, 0. So that means your first point is going to be at 0, 0. So this is your first point at 0, 0. So let's say this is 0, 0. Okay, the next one is for you to spot on the next smaller value. So let's say, for example, my next smaller value for the G is equivalent to 1. So all you need to do is to just follow the same procedure, 7 times 1, which gives you 7. So that would mean that the second point that you're going to have is going to be 1, 7. So knowing that 2 points can create a line, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we know that this is going to be 1 comma 7, and 2 points could create a line. So this would mean that this is going to be the graph of your equation. Okay, I hope you guys understand that. Now I want you to pause this and try to answer this particular question. All right, now I assume that you guys answered this particular question. So all you need to do is to just follow the same procedure. So again, first is to find the equation connecting K and D. So we know that K is directly proportional to the distance covered in dkm. So if we are going to find this first step, the first step will be the first step will be K is equivalent to K D. Okay, please don't get confused with this particular K. So this particular K represents the K dollars. So next step is for us to solve for the constant, which is this one. Okay, so K is equivalent to K dollars over D. All right, and we know that the values of K and D here is equivalent to 60 and 100. So that means this one is going to be $100 and this one is going to be 60 kilometers. Okay, so the K now will give us a fractional form of 10 over 6, which is equivalent to 5 over 3. Okay, so in this case, guys, we know that the K is a fractional form. I highly suggest you not to put it into a decimal value so that later on you can still try to find out if you could cancel out the values. And at the same time, it will give us a hard time, particularly if the denominator cannot be, or the fraction cannot be converted into an exact decimal value. So in here, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to write it as 5. Y is equivalent to, or K, sorry. K is equivalent to 5 over D. All right. So it says find the equation connecting K and D. So this is what we, sorry, I mistakenly put this one. So this should be 5 over 3 D. All right. So once you get to have that one, what you need to do now is to understand that this is what we're going to look for letter A. A is 5, K is equivalent to 5 over 3D. And then the B is asking for the shipping cost, which is equivalent to K, for the distance of D, 45 kilometers. So that means we're looking for the K, and we have to understand that the cost is equivalent to 45 kilometers. So in here, guys, you will now understand that when you cancel out this one, this is going to give you a certain value. 5 times 15 is going to give us 75. So that would mean that the cost of that particular distance will give us $75. And again, if we would like to graph this one, so we are going to use the equation. The equation is K is equivalent to 5 over 3D. Okay. So this one represents the X, which is the D, and this one represents the Y, which is the K. All right, some of you might get confused if it's a fraction, what should we do so that we could get a particular value that is exact? So the first one, and the one that we always do here, is to put the particular value of X as 0. So meaning to say, if we're going to calculate this one, this is going to be 5 over 3 times 0. So automatically we know that the k is 0, which tells us that the point is equivalent to 0, 0. Okay. And then for us to get an exact value for the k, what we need to do is to think of a certain value for the d that could be canceled with the denominator. So in this case, what I usually do is I just simply copy what's the denominator and automatically it will be the value of my d. So let's say, for example, if my denominator is 3, then I will use a value of 3 as the value of my d, so that if I substitute it to this equation, automatically the result will become the numerator. Meaning to say, the points that I can get, the point that I will get, or the coordinates that I will get, will now be equivalent to 3, 5. So let's say this is 0, 0. So this is 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is the line that you're going to have. All right, and notice that when we are graphing a direct proportion problem, okay, for you to understand that it is a direct proportion problem, you will see that all of it will start from the point of origin, from the 0, 0. Because if it did not start from the point of origin, from the 0, 0 itself, then automatically we cannot say that these variables are said to be direct proportion. Okay, I hope you guys understand that. For the next meeting, we're going to have this particular discussion. And what I need you guys to do is to review this video and see whether you can do it by yourself independently. Okay, so this is Mr. Ronald again. I'll be seeing you in the next meeting. Thank you so much and have a nice day.